Hey there, fish keepers. Dean here. So I figured I'd do a 2024 year in review. It was a pretty spectacular year for fish keeping, but also a year where I had to change priorities and, really focus on family, focus on work. A lot of things changed. So I kept my priorities straight. My fish tanks have been doing awesome, and I've done some incredibly cool and amazing things this past year with my fish keeping, mostly through the fish clubs, the Calgary Aquarium Society and the Aquarium Club of Edmonton. So I got to meet some of my favorite fish keeping authors, Gary Lang. So I'll start with here. So I got to take Gary Lang out west and meet him. He came to our club and did a few talks, brought some eggs. Lots of eggs were purchased for some very great prices. And I got to spend a day with him, showing him our native bull trout out in western Alberta, which was incredibly cool, and nice guy. I really like him. So I figured I'd start off my Fishroom update, or 2024 in review, with Tania Kalitawa, which is one of Gary Lang's favorite fish. He's got high hopes for them, and if you see what they're doing here and how gorgeous they are, I think that they'll become incredibly popular in our hobby. So this is my 40-gallon breeder. These are partly my original fish that I got from Curtis Jerome at Common Sense Aquatics a couple of years ago here. So I've bred lots of them and distributed them all over, and but I've dialed back a little bit on the breeding on them to focus on other super ridiculously cool species that I've acquired over the past year. So we'll just carry on with our tour here. So that's my 40 breeder with the Kalitawas. And if we go back up to here, my Cordoris garryi are still doing awesome. And I've got their fry grown up, and Paul Belanger has got 10 up in Edmonton, and Darren from April's Aquarium has got another 10 there in Vancouver. So they are hopefully going to breed here in the next year or so, but super gorgeous fish, and love this tank. I can't get enough of watching it. And of course I've got my red neon blue eyes in here, which are one of my favorite fish. I've bred lots of those over this year and distributed them far and wide. And some of my very favorite plants are also in this tank too. Cryptocorn, Nuri Rose Maiden is one of my favorite plants. And Barclaya longfolia red. So this tank hasn't really changed much. The panda cories are going like crazy in here, so I see lots of baby pandas coming up. And the hairgrass, I just dialed it back quite a bit, but it was really thick, and it was awesome for growing shrimp and allowing baby cories to grow. This here is, there's some nasty reflection. My black bar Endler tank. My wife's cousin Melissa originally gave these ones to me, and this is kind of a memorial tank for her. Then we've got a tank that I just kind of took all of the hair algae covered plants out of and replanted. It's just a little grow up for CPDs and red neon blue eyes. There's not very many in there, but they're getting thick, these guys, because they're getting a lot of food and they got a lot of room. And one of the plants that is pretty common in the hobby that I just started keeping, this Limnophilia sensiflora, got from my buddy Neil, and it's awesome. I really like this plant. I highly recommend it. And then I've got this tank here. I'm going to move in some fry today, some CPDs from my continuous breeding setup, but there's a bunch of probably a little bit too big a fry that have grown in there because I haven't moved them for a while. This is that Spec 5 kind of escape tank with the carpet on it. So there's no CO2 on this one. The carpet did really great. The back part got beat up pretty good. There's a couple of plants in there, and a couple of crypts, and when I took them out, they really beat up the hair grass in there. So the hair grass in the back is not doing very good. So I'm gonna have to maybe replant it. But overall, like for, you know, no CO2 on this tank, the hair grass actually did quite well. And yeah, got a carpet out of the deal. And that one's been set up for well over a year. And then in this tank here, I've got my Oryzias garryi, but I also acquired something that I've really, really wanted. I'll have to go up here slowly. They're not like a really spooky fish, but they don't like movement close by. CW111, or the Vulcan Cory. So I was lucky over the past year to have Hans George Evers come to Calgary and Edmonton and present to us. And when he did, we arranged to get some CW111s from him. And it was super awesome. He actually came over here and checked out my fish room. It was quite an honor to have him here, him and Brigida. Came over and we had a lunch, and I showed him my tanks, and Hans gave me a lot of really great tips, which I use. That we'll get to later on. But these guys right here, the CW111s, are definitely one of my favorites in the fish room right now. They're juveniles, so they won't be breeding here for a while. I got 9 that Curtis from Common Sense Aquatics brought in from Germany for me, and they're still young yet, so it'll be a while here before I can breed them. But Paul Boulanger also got a group. I think he's got 8 of them, but they're in here growing up, and hopefully I'll be able to breed them and spread these guys around Canada. But this tank has been doing awesome. The Oryzias garryi, the young ones, are back in here in the dark, but they've been coming out more. They come out, and the little CW111s hang out in this sand here, and the garryi hang out over here underneath this root with Anubias over top of it. But they've been coming out to hang out with the little 111s every once in a while, and they're probably getting pretty close to breeding age, so hopefully I'll be able to breed them soon. And down here we've got my little 10-gallon tank where I've got all my ornaments from when I was a kid. And in here we've got some baby Black Prince Gudaids. They are doing really well. This is like the last batch that the female dropped of Cracodon Audax El Tabaso. I've got a lot now that are in a number of different fish tanks in my house here, and I think I've probably got, I don't know, around 50, and I've also distributed them to numerous fish keepers here in Canada to keep this critically endangered fish going. It's also quite a beautiful fish. You'll see in some of my other tanks, some of the bigger ones. These guys here are still pretty small. The little pencil fish here, not everything goes as planned. These guys here, I had 16 or 17, and they just crashed. I don't know if I got a bacteria in here. This is a few months ago. But they're in quarantine. There's literally one left. They just all up and died. I don't know why. The one that's left, though, is doing awesome. And while they're out, I will sneak over here. This is the Tiger Limia Isla. And over the past year and a half that I've had them, I've distributed quite a few, and I've got a lot of these guys now. They've been doing really, really well. Really a nice fish, really pretty, but they can be quite shy. They seem to be pretty smart about their shyness. They'll come out and eat. If there's food there, they'll all come out and they'll be all hunky-dory, but a lot of the other times they hide quite a bit. You really have to be patient to watch these guys. But a really beautiful fish. And then re-establishing my yellow neocaridinias. I used to have tons and tons of these, so I'm getting the colony going again here. Actually, Tiffany got me a bag of yellow neos, and I got a couple of other bags from the Aquarium Club of Edmonton auction here in the spring, and they've been breeding and doing really good. This tank did have a lot of hair algae in it, but you know, if you get committed to picking out hair algae, you can even get it out of Seswasser tanks. So I've really committed to picking out the hair algae, and it's looking pretty good. Like, there was a lot of hair algae in this Seswasser tank, and it's I've managed to get rid of most of it. And these guys are looking awesome. Whoever was breeding these in the club in Edmonton did a good job. They're really nice. So they're breeding pretty good. And in this tank here, I've got a bunch of Medaka that I've kept for the last few years outside. The parents did awesome outside in an unheated, it's actually a feeding trough that I set up pretty nice for them, and when I put them out there last year, they left a pile of eggs in the tank that they were in, and I got these babies, so I've given away a few of the babies of these guys, but these guys I'm gonna raise up for next year to go outside. So they're a pretty cool little bunch. They're doing really well. Now these guys here are an incredibly cool fish. So when Hans came to my place, he's seen the different types of fish that I had, and I bought some of the CW111s from him. It was about a month and a half later or so, and Curtis brought him back, and when Curtis came back, Hans had gifted me this ricefish here, Oryzias soroetoi, I think is how you pronounce it. And he said that he told Curtis that he thought that I'd really like these guys. Well, they're awesome. Like, you get CW111s, and I thought I'd be most fascinated with them, but it's actually been these guys here that have been absolutely fascinating to watch. I think of them like they don't have a common name. They're really new to the hobby. I think of them as a red-tailed black ricefish. And the thing that they're black, they have a red tail, but they also kind of behave like red-tailed black sharks. They do a lot of displaying vertically. I don't know if the male will do it here. I might be able to show some video later on, or overlay some video with them doing it, but they do a lot of vertical displays, and they're really gorgeous. They turn jet black. So Hans, after seeing my fish room, knows exactly what I'm into, and I've got a whole bunch of fry from these guys yet. They're super easy to breed, just like most race fish. So those are cool. I want to distribute them. They're critically endangered from Indonesia. But hopefully we'll get them going here in Canada. And I've still got my oldest continuous setup here. This tank's been set up since 1998. And I've got all my mini fish in here. I've got some chili rasboras that are like over 5 years old in here. But these guys are pretty shy for the most part. They're coming out here a little bit. I give them a bit of baby brine shrimp, so at least we can see some of the fish that are in here. I've got some ruby tetras, chili rasboras, pretty darn old ember tetras, and some reed tetras in here, some rosy loaches, and all kinds of shrimp. Then up here, I've got my goldfish in for the winter. They're doing great, and no problems with them. So you can keep goldfish with plants, but you have to make sure that you feed them decent. And some species they just straight up eat. But Cryptocorum balance, they were eating the tiger lotus a few years ago. Now I think that the tiger lotus has, they've gotten used to having it around and they haven't been eating it. But Cryptocorum balance seems to be a pretty decent plant for them to cohabitate with without eating. And then here I've got my Epistogramma panduros from Korean. Grew them up from little guys that were about a centimeter long or less, and hopefully I'll be able to breed them here. They've actually been showing quite a bit of breeding behavior here lately. They have been doing really well. Hopefully the big male comes out here. If not, I'll maybe overlay a little bit of it with the male on there. But they've been doing good, showing a bit of breeding behavior. And yeah, but I've got to soften the water, lower the pH a little bit, and get some babies from those guys, because pistos don't live super long, so I got to get some babies out of those. And then you see here my CPD continuous breeding setup. It's been doing great. I've gotten all kinds of little CPDs out of there. This time I left them in here pretty long. You can see there's little CPDs in here, but they've actually gotten pretty big because I haven't had a lot of tank space to take them out. So the nice part about this one is that you can have fry going and just let them grow up in the tank for a while until you got some room. So CPD continuous breeding setup has been doing awesome. So we'll go back over here, and I guess maybe we'll look at they're probably all going to take off. But Asian rummy noses. So these are my males. I just don't want to get too close here because they're a little bit spooky. They'll go in behind the plants. See if I can get a little bit closer. But one of the things that I was talking to Hans about when he was over here were Asian rummy noses. So I bred them last year and got eggs, but I tried to raise them in my little cups or hatch them out in the cups. They hatch really quick and they're super tiny, and it seemed like they starved right away. So he said to just try it a different way. So I set up a tank with just Anubias in it, conditioned the females in a separate tank, then put the males and females together, conditioned them with Daphnia, and just float like a bare tank with some Anubias floating in it, as Hans has recommended. And you just pull the Anubias out and hatch them in a fairly rich grow out tank. And you'll see I've got babies of these guys in that tank. So what he recommended totally works. Hans is the man. So just throwing Anubias, floating it in there, and then you just take the Anubias out with the eggs on it and hatch them in a different tank. It worked great, but right now I'm kind of conditioning them again, because if I want to get BAP points, I've only got 6 fry from the original test breeding, but it works, so I just have to get more eggs to get my BAP points for the club. But I keep the males in this tank, and then the females are in here with Medaka. I'm just kind of conditioning them up again. You can probably see I've got a bunch of Daphne in there. So I got to do that here right away again. But we'll go to this tank here. And I got these little guys here from Marcus Nichols with the Canada wing of the Gudeiid working group. And these are Crinichthes baileyii, or the White River springfish. It's an endangered species. It's a type of Gudeiid that lays eggs and stays relatively small. And I just got little fry here from Marcus, and I'm going to grow them up and breed them and see if we can get them distributed here in Alberta. And this tank is actually looking pretty good. This is that green kind of a carpet in the front is Schismata glottis soroetoi, and that is a cool plant. It's not, although it looks like a nubius, it's not a nubius. You need to plant it in the substrate for it to grow. And over here I've got my probably 2-month-old Crocodon Audax L Tabasso. They're getting just about mature now, and I've got an older male in there with them so that he can maybe breed them. They breed like crazy. So these guys are the Black Princes, and we're getting them established here in Canada. And I think there's probably about 25 or 30 in here right now. They're all fighting amongst the plants there. They're actually a relatively peaceful Goudeid, though. I haven't seen them kill each other yet at all. And they're super pretty. I'll show you another tank with a whole bunch of them in it that are bigger. Hopefully they'll be out. They really establish little territories in there, in amongst the grass. Asian rummy nose, as you can see, they disappeared when I moved close. And here I got my pea puffers. I think I raised like 17 to about 5 months, and then they started murdering each other. Ugh. So I raised these guys from eggs, but the violence is real with these guys. They're doing super good though. They're really chunky little guys, but the male is a real killer. So it ended up going from 17 down to 4. Then he's got basically the 1 male and 3 females. You can see them, they're really chunky here. But they lay eggs. I just haven't gotten any eggs out of these guys, so they breed in our hard water here. The fry are really tough to raise, but you can do it. It just takes a lot of effort, a lot of brine shrimp, and yeah, they're awesome little guys. My kids absolutely love these little pea puffers, even though they are not the friendliest little guys with each other or with many tank mates, but for whatever reason these guys they don't hate shrimp, so they don't eat them, they leave them alone. Then over here I still got my colony of spotted blue eyes, or Gertrudes, and they're kind of like an aquarium strain, but really quite a beautiful fish. I've raised quite a few of these guys and brought them to the club auctions. They are very popular. Pseudomcgill Gertrudii, just a great little fish. Display a lot, and very beautiful. And this tank here, I was keeping some of my younger Kalitawas in, but those guys got sold off, so this tank is a little bit empty right now. I've got just a few older tetras in here, and also my Cordurus 155s, or the Inspector Cory, and they're doing really great, but those guys are nocturnal totally. They only come out in the dark. I have to feed them before or just after the lights come out, and then you see them, and it's actually kind of cool because you get like a little bit of extra fish time in the blue light, which is neat. And then we'll go over to my it's kind of like my retirement tank. The big change with this tank here, I rescaped it. I had really big clown loaches, as you've seen in my videos before, and I gave them to buddy Ryan, and because he's got a really big tank, he had a big colony of clowns, and they were just really getting too big for this 90. They were quite impressive fish, but needed a bigger home, so give them to Ryan, so they're doing well over there. And I rescaped it with the Tiger Lotus in the middle. It's turned out okay, but this is kind of my retirement tank. I've got some, and kind of a backup tank too. I've got some extra Kalitawas in here. some of my fricatus in here, Congos. Yeah, so it's kind of when fish are getting old, they go into this one, live out their lives, and it looks pretty decent right now. And then over here, I've got my a breeding setup. I'm going to see if the black princes are out. Yeah, there's a few of them out, but these are Crocodile Nodaxel Tabasso. There's my bigger ones are in here, but there's quite a hierarchy in this tank here, so there's a lot of hiding, chasing. They never really hurt each other too much, but they're not always available to see because they're doing a bit of squabbling amongst each other, but they're doing really good. There's about 20 of them in here, and I've got some really nice black males where the whole body is black, but you think those guys would be out. No, that guy's pretty black in the middle there too. But and my original pair is in here as well. So they're doing pretty awesome in this tank, and yeah, they're a nice goodad. If people are interested in Canada, we can get them over to them. And so I've got a whole bunch of fry here. This is the Oryzias soroetoi, or the red-tailed black ricefish. Got about 80 or so fry in there, and then some baby panda cories, because I've always got panda cory eggs. I hatch them out and just put the babies in with other fry that I'm raising. And those are my little trays where I'm hatching out eggs. Lots of Daphnia going, Boos, and Barclay Longfolia Red. I got a ton of Barclay Longfolia Red seeds here that I've got to raise. They take forever to start growing, but I've got a whole bunch for another round. Maybe give them to the people in the club to try out, maybe a half dozen each. My white worms are going, and then this here is my Asian rummy noses, and there's some little catfish in here, but I don't know. I'm just gonna put the phone over top of there and see if we can see anything, but probably not. The fry are pretty shy, but they're getting pretty big. And that's about it. I still have my tank upstairs that's going. We'll maybe finish off taking a look at the Cordoris garryi. I've got red neon blue eyes upstairs. That's just my breeding colony, and I don't want to run upstairs and waste video that we could be using to watch fish. But Cordoris garryi here, this tank has been amazing. The shrimp are doing awesome in here. I'm getting just a pile of little neos out of this tank. The pandas are breeding, and the plants are doing really well in it. That's a Legonandrum boldi. It is just a gorgeous plant. Let's see if I can get a better picture of it. Some really nice pink variegated leaves. Really a gorgeous plant. I spent a lot of time just laying on the downstairs bed here watching this tank because it's super entertaining. So that's 2024, so still doing lots of fish stuff, meeting lots of amazing people in the fish keeping hobby, and hopefully I will be able to do more videos here in the near future, but I am pretty committed at work and lots of family things going on, so I'm going to just try and put out videos when I can. In the meantime, happy fish keeping. Take care. Bye.